insane far-left Black Lives Matter activist pulls the race card on Piers Morgan, and it backfires big league. Guys, I think you're gonna enjoy it. This is gonna be a good one. You know, some things change and some things just never seem to do. And one of those things that doesn't change is leftists pulling race cards. It's one of the oldest tricks in the book. They've been doing it for decades and decades and decades. It just doesn't seem to stop. But hey, what can we do? We're not gonna be able to change them, so the least we can do is enjoy it and get a good laugh out of it. So this is gonna be a fun one, guys. I think you're gonna enjoy it. We're gonna get right into it. But first, everybody, please make sure you like our video, share it around, and yes, subscribe to the Resist the Mainstream YouTube channel. That way we can keep bringing you these great ownage videos. I know I'm enjoying it. I'm sure you guys are too. So please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. As always, I'm your host, Darian, and let's get into the show.
New trend is sweeping theatre land in the UK and US. Blackout performances are dedicated to black-only audiences. Those who are not black are asked not to buy tickets. The Theatre of Royal Stratford East in London says no one's excluded from attending their new show, Tambo and Bones, but promotional material makes clear that white people aren't wanted at the production on the night in question. Says a blackout night is a purposeful creation of an environment in which an all black identifying audience can experience and discuss an event in performing arts free from the white gaze. So does this mean I can go if I identify as a black man? There would be someone on the woke side who would have, well, they have trouble disagreeing with that, given they believe in limitless self-identity. But it is more importantly, is it ever okay to exclude audiences based on skin color? What would happen, for example, if it was the other way around? If this was a white-only audience? Well, I'm joined by the Talk TV contributor Esther Krakow and the Black Lives Matter organizer and activist Iman Aidens. All right, Iman, I'm just trying to picture what would happen if I put on a theatrical production in London and it said it was for whites only, or people identifying as white, which is obviously a ludicrous phrase, but you would go nuts. You would say that is blatant racism, segregation, dragged us kicking and screaming back to the dark days of appalling bigotry. You would?
Well, it depends on the context, right?
There's no whites-only audience.
It depends on the context.
No black people allowed. What would you say?
Well, I think you're perfectly right. It would be akin to racists finding more ways to be more racist.
So why is it okay this way around?
Okay, so we have to put it into context. It was 1 out of the 29 shows.
Doesn't matter.
Yes, it does. Let's put it into context, Piers. You want to forget about context. Context is everything. It is 1 out of the 29 shows that was targeted towards black people. And at no point did they say certain people were not excluded. In fact, they actually said it verbatim on their website. No one is excluded, and yet you have found racism.
No, I just read the rest of what they said. It's pretty clear. You are not supposed to go if you're not black.
No, please consider booking other dates.
Right, exactly.
I think the context.
Well, Piers missed one thing. If you look at the website, it actually says you can go if you're black identifying. So, hey, you know, if someone can identify as a pansexual, genderqueer, I don't know, free agent or whatever, non-binary, well, I'm black now. You know, I got a little more melanin than most, right? So it works, I think.
You're right. The context is important. I think the issue here is when it's talking about sort of, you know, blackouts, and it's trying to gather an audience of black people that they believe have the same experience.
Right. Exactly.
This doesn't transpose the same way it does in the US and the UK, right? A black person in the UK could be black African, black British, you know, black from the Caribbean, right? In the US, the conversation around race is completely different, and that's why it's a problem. Obviously, when you bring this to the UK, people are going to be like, "What are you talking about?" This is especially in London, the most multicultural city in the country.
Can you see any merit to it?
Of course not. But that's, and I don't even think it makes sense in the American context.
Why is that? If you're talking about safe spaces, because let's just be clear, we're talking about safe spaces.
Because I think
what do you mean safe space? What does that mean?
Okay, so
you wouldn't feel safe if I came along?
No. Again, context. We're talking about a play that was done by black people, for black people, targeted for black people.
So what?
1 out of the... Again, let's just be clear, because you're clearly not getting this message. It is basically akin to the disabled community putting on 29 shows, and 29 shows about disabilities, and then one of those shows is targeted towards the disabled community. That is what it is akin to, and yet you have a problem. Why is that, Piers? Have you genuinely asked yourself?
Did she just compare being black to being disabled? I didn't mishear that, right? Just incredible.
difference between disabilities or disabled community or Jewish, but when it comes to black,
my problem is that you have already conceded that if it was the other way round, and this was a whites-only night of this theatrical performance, you would say racist. And that's my problem.
Spaces.
It's
safe spaces.
the
Black
double
people
standard.
are disproportionately affected by racism, so therefore it's about safe spaces. This play is about racism, therefore we should have a safe space for black people as we are disproportionately.
So they're being actively racist to non-black people. And she says, well, you know, it's actually because blacks are the ones suffering from racism. That's why we're doing this. What?
Affected by racism.
I don't think you tackle.
You wouldn't say that to a woman. You wouldn't say that to a woman when she was talking about abuse, and therefore she wanted, and they wanted, and she wanted a safe space.
No, I'm sorry.
Say that.
The idea of safe spaces and black people needing safe spaces is extremely patronising.
But we're talking about racism.
Okay, what about Asian people? Do Asian people need safe spaces from racism?
When talking about
do Asian people?
I'm answering your question.
We don't have this conversation.
When talking about,
let Esther finish.
No, she just asked me a question, so I'm answering it. When talking about Asian racism, I think they deserve a bit of a safe space. When they're talking about their own experiences.
From black people or from white people?
From all types.
Speaking of, well, she says Asian racism. I think a more correct way to say that would be racism against Asians. Anyone else remember the whole Stop Asian Hate campaign that was conveniently blamed on white people? I have a fun little project and assignment for you guys. Look into that Stop Asian Hate campaign and look at the videos of all the assaults on Asian people. And you tell me how much white supremacy was causing all that. Kind of a fun little game. Let us know in the comments what you find.
People that are going to promote judgment, because it's about being free of judgment.
Esther, let me ask you.
Free of white judgment, free of Asian judgment, free of all types.
Let somebody else speak, please.
No, I'm going to.
Or we're going to have a safe space where you get removed so that only I can be heard speaking.
Happily, and I'll say bye to you both.
I will have a one night only. Only Piers.
Happily, I'll say bye to you both. I'll see you on Saturday. I'll say bye.
I'll have one night of the show where only I am allowed to speak and you're not allowed to, because of your skin colour. How would you like that?
Well, that's called racism.
Exactly my point.
No, it's not.
Esther, let me ask you this. What would most black friends of yours or family think about this? I mean, in other words, is it something where a lot of black people might go, you know what, actually, I can see some merit to this?
They would see it as an American importation. Right.
Does that mean necessarily a bad thing?
I think that it would. No, it would be seen as ridiculous, but ridiculously, particularly American. Right, because black people are not a monolith, which we can all agree on. Black people come from various parts of the world; they have different cultures. This idea that there is a shared black experience, I think, is ludicrous. Other than the color of our skin, But you have to accept there are many connotations you're adding to that.
By your own
I could say that as a black person, I face more racism from Asian and Middle Eastern people, so I should have a safe space from those people. Can you even identify them? No, but that's ridiculous.
I don't think. Okay, let me interrupt. Let me speak. I don't think any form of art should ever be exclusionary on the grounds of skin colour, regardless of who it's targeted to or who it's made by.
We're talking about race equity.
The whole point of art is it should be for everybody.
But we're talking about race equity.
For everybody. No.
Context.
I don't. No, it's not right. There's nothing racially equal about this.
Yes.
It's racially unequal. You're saying no white people can come.
Context.
It's ridiculous.
What's the play about, Piers?
I've heard you right.
What's the play about?
It doesn't matter what it's about.
Yes, it does.
It doesn't.
That's your issue. You want to negate context. And
No,
there is no
it doesn't
argument
matter if
from both of us without context. You know this, and yet you try to negate it.
No, I don't know this.
Here.
No, you
Deal
can't.
with the context, and if you can't deal with it, don't come with an argument.
You can't tell me.
What's hilarious about this false and disingenuous argument she makes about, oh, you're leaving out the context, Piers. Oh, you're so bad. Leftists are making the exact same arguments to justify these black-only dormitories we see in the United States. Western Washington University, for instance, as well as MIT, both received media attention because they were literally having dorms only for blacks. Seems like the left has come full circle on that whole segregation thing, huh? Kind of interesting. But, you know, right-wingers are the racists because, I don't know, the media and the Democrats said so. There's no other explanation, right? Duh, obviously. I bring that up because many people will make very similar arguments for the black-only dorms as this lady was making, saying, well, you know, black people have received racism against them, historical discrimination, systemic racism, blah, 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 blah. So it's not actually racist if they do it. But, you know, surprise, surprise, you ask them if they should allow white dormitories. No, that'd be terrible. Context. No one's falling for the shtick anymore. I mean, it's getting so obvious how fake and phony it really all is. And by the way, by simply having different standards for blacks versus white people, you are being racist to white people by definition. So yeah, I said it. That lady is a racist. and so are the people who support the black-only dorms. So this whole idea that somehow people who oppose it are racist, it's total inversion. They're just trying to flip everything upside down and confuse and gaslight the masses. And thankfully, more and more people are waking up to that kind of crap.
The text.
You can't tell me what I'm thinking.
No, exactly. But that's
right?
what you do to me.
Or what my opinion
is. And that's what
is.
people like you do to me.
People like
and
me?
Yes.
What do you mean people like me?
Prejudice. Racially prejudiced people like yourself. That's
What?
what you do. That's why we need safe spaces.
You're calling me racially prejudiced?
I've done that several times, Piers. Why are you surprised?
Why are you
What's
saying
going on?
that?
Ignorance doesn't actually suit you.
That's ignorant, actually,
No,
what you
no,
just
it's
said.
not. I've just told you
I'm
that
not
several
racially
times.
prejudiced.
Okay,
And
so
what you just said
what's
is very
prejudice,
offensive.
Piers?
And you
What's
shouldn't be
prejudice,
saying
Piers?
that.
Piers, what's prejudice?
Huh?
What's prejudice?
If you're
You've been
racially
learning.
prejudiced, you are a racist.
What's prejudice?
That's what you just called
Have you been
me.
learning? What's
I'm not
prejudice?
accepting that, sorry.
What's prejudice?
Esther, will you go and watch this?
Swiftly
No,
move
but I'm
on.
No, I don't think you should be calling me a racist.
Swiftly move
It's ridiculous.
on. I've done it several times, and yet you have a problem.
then you're
with the
wrong
third
every time.
I did it last year. You're talking
Well,
about
good
it
for
today as
you.
if it's a new surprise.
It's
It's,
a-
not.
it's-
I told you last year you were racially
it's a
prejudiced, and I'm
lazy-
telling you again
it's a
today.
lazy
and yet
thing
you
to
have
say.
no argument.
It's a
That's
lazy
your
thing to
argument.
say.
Lazy thing to say. Well done.
Because I'm
Piers.
not
You're doing
racially
well.
prejudiced. Never
You're doing
have
well.
been.
What's racial
Lady
prejudice,
something.
Piers?
It's being a
Answer the
racist.
question. Answer the question.
It's judging
And that's
people
what you do.
prejudicially
That's what you
on their
do.
skin colour.
That's what you do.
Actually, rather like
That
what
is
this
what
theatrical
you
production
do.
is doing.
That's
right.
what you do.
We've got to leave it there. Thank you both very much. I appreciate it.
Gotta love the BLM activists. Just such pleasant, nice people. That's all I'll say on that, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. We really appreciate it. As always, please comment below. Let us know what you liked, what you want to see next, and we'll see you guys again so very soon, I am sure. Thanks, and God bless.